The importance of exports to the U.S. beef industry has been well documented, and the U.S. Meat Export Federation works hard every day to enhance demand for our product overseas. Joining us now to talk about these efforts is Phil Singh. He's president and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Phil, I know you and your team work hard every day creating opportunities for U.S. beef producers all around the globe, and we certainly saw those efforts pay off, particularly in the fourth quarter with a nice uptick in exports. Tell us specifically some of the growth you've had in Asia.
Well, I think the real key thing for us as far as growth has been North Asia. We've seen tremendous growth in Korea. We've exceeded Australia and Korea after all these years. And we're doing very well both in the chilled and the frozen complex. We've seen growth in Japan. All these markets are up in double-digit areas. We've seen growth in Taiwan, and of course we have growth in China through Hong Kong. So I think when we take a look at this, it's been very positive in Asia.
Outstanding. There's been a lot of rhetoric about Mexico and NAFTA. Tell us why beef exports to Mexico are so important to the beef producers.
Well, beef is tremendous for us. For Mexico, it's our #1 volume market. It's been a constant growth market for us. We have a zero duty going into Mexico, so we have an optimum condition going into Mexico. And when we take a look at Mexico, we've had very trouble-free trade going into Mexico. So obviously it's a great market for us. And if you add Canada in there, that's about 40% of our total beef exports are going to both Canada and Mexico, so NAFTA is very important to us.
Absolutely. Let's go a little further south. On this show before, we've talked about the opportunities in Latin America. What's the news there?
Yeah, well, Latin America is one of the newer markets, but we're starting to see growth take off in some of the countries in Central America. We're also seeing some growth in some of the countries in South America, so these are new markets for us. But they're growing markets, their incomes are growing, and so there's competition there, but there's also markets for our high quality beef in those markets.
And the European Union, give us an update on what opportunities you see out of the EU.
Well, we've had our challenges with the EU with the quota. We thought in 2008 when we negotiated a new agreement with the EU that would be a duty-free quota that this was as a result of the retaliation that was levied against the Europeans as a result of the hormone issue. We thought this would be a very good opportunity for the U.S., but actually the Europeans have not been enforcing that agreement as far as the high-quality grain-fed beef portion of it. And so we've seen our share go down in that market. So we have some challenges there, but we know there's a market there of 500 million consumers. They have the distribution, the appreciation for meat. So we're still always very interested in that European market.
I know you have boots on the ground all over the world, and as you identify the opportunities, what are some of the other markets that you think are pretty exciting long-term for U.S. beef producers?
I think long-term we're always interested in taking a look at the Russian market. I think long-term still the China market, we're just stepping on the, just looking at getting some access, some meaningful access into the Chinese market. So that's one of the fastest growing markets in the world. It's just doubled this year over last year, and it's over 1 million metric tons when you take a look at Hong Kong and China. So that's an infinite market for us. We look at Japan and Korea, still markets we've been in for a long time, but they're growing. Just because a market is developed doesn't mean it doesn't continue developing. So we see a lot of opportunity all around the world right now.
$300 of value, that's what I heard as exports are creating for us as beef cattle producers. Any advice to us as beef cattle producers about what we can do to help make your job easier?
Well, I think the key thing right now is to focus on trade. Obviously there's been some changes, and with these changes we need people that are not espousing protectionism. 55% of the world's GDP is derived from trade. If you look at global GDP, it's critically important for us that we sustain this trade momentum, and the United States sustains its leadership as far as trade, because the way we go after a rules-based international trading system is the only way to go. Experience has taught us that.
You've got your work cut out for you. I'm sure we'll be talking again.
My pleasure.
Thank you. To learn more about the work of USMEF and U.S. beef exports, visit their website. That's usmef.org.